All right, we are live. This is Mod Hotep with Brad Chapman, vocal pre-producer. He'll explain what that is. We have Anna Ramsden here with us right now and Don Patterson. And the lovely Ashlee Littlejohn will be joining us. He's going to, well, we'll let him wing it. I'm going to throw him in the fire. I'm going to have him, I'm going to have Ashlee sit down, and they'll start a conversation, and he'll just work his way through. She's a little hoarse. She just got done doing a concert with Keith Sweat here locally, and her voice is a little raspy, hoarse, whatever you call it. So, Ashlee, have a seat. You ready, Brad?
Oh yeah, man! I got my fire suit on, so throw me in the fire.
All right, here she goes. Here's your challenge. See if you can get her to do anything emotionally.
Hey, Ashlee, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, formally.
Yeah. So, congratulations on the concert.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sounds like it was a pretty big show.
It was huge. It was amazingly, and I'm still on the high from that.
Yeah, yeah, and there's, that's probably, that's one of the reasons we tend to get a little bit hoarse, because all that excitement, all that energy, the audience is like going crazy, and
my
just putting it out.
Overcharged.
Yeah, you're just putting it out, and that's just part of our industry, so, even though this is focused on vocal pre-production, or what I do as a pre-producer, is always keeping your focus, no matter what you're doing as a singer, on how is this going to affect my ability to emote emotions, and how is it going to affect how I feel inside when I'm singing. So whether it be a vocal exercise, whether it be voice therapy, whether it be talking about the lyrics, looking at the song, whether it's oh, I'm hoarse today, what am I going to do? All those things, we want to keep the focus on feeling the song, feeling the energy, feeling the excitement, and connecting with the audience. And it sounds to me like you did, right? So in this respect, we're a little bit like athletes these days, where the audience wants our blood. I mean, they want our energy, they want our blood, they want our soul, It's like, hey, man, I paid for this, I want your soul, come on. I just recently saw where a concert was put on where Axl Rose didn't show up. And this was, I don't know how long ago this was, but they were showing people rioting because he didn't show up. I mean, they were breaking chairs and busting stuff up, and, they were all, I paid my money, where's my show? So I mean, they get pretty wound up, especially if they see you as a major artist.
Yeah, the fans.
So here's the point I'm getting to: is that you have to treat yourself like an athlete would. You've got to put everything out, where maybe you're going to be tired after, or there's possibilities of even a slight amount of damage. So how do you deal with it, right? So vocal therapy and vocal technique are the ways that we deal with that. So we remove hoarseness through exercises that actually massage your voice. Now, just go back real quick. Well, okay, Brad. Well, I've done all that, but I'm still pretty hoarse, and I've still got to sing tonight. What am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
You still bury yourself completely into the emotion of the song, and make your connection with your audience. And this is a skill all by itself that I work with people on, is how to ignore that. How do you ignore that your voice just isn't up to par, and it's not going to be? You can't buy a new one, so.
Yeah. You're stuck in that moment of having that voice before you go up, and then you have to deal with the thought. You have to ignore it.
And you even have to deal with the fact that you may have even less voice when you're done. At the end of the show, it's probably going to get even worse. Mm-hmm. And one of the difficulties we're having in this new music industry is that you guys are required to tour more because of the loss of record sales to all the free downloading. So you kind of have to do your best to pace yourself so that hopefully you're not singing every night, but that's kind of what they're doing to us now because they want to cut the cost of travel. And how do you get through from the beginning of the show to the end of the show and not completely have no voice left over when you're, halfway through the show? So the quick answer to those questions is basically taking care of your voice and learning how. And it goes back to doing vocal exercises before the show, doing vocal exercises after the show, so you're actually, in effect, preparing for tomorrow. And then actually little tricks you can do on stage. One of them being that as much as you can, try to set up your show. So I know the most important thing about the show is the emotional drive that it has, how it starts and how it ends and how people are reacting all that time. But also, if you can strategize some short breaks for yourself, guitar solos, somebody else singing, somebody else talking, anywhere where you get 30 seconds to a minute of just your voice is not doing anything. It's amazing how quickly, if you don't overtire your voice, that it can kind of recoup. And then there's another little exercise that is very simple that I can just pass on to you all because it's very safe, and I don't sell CDs and videos. Let me just tell you my philosophy very quickly about that, is because without feedback you have no idea as to whether you're doing it right or wrong, and so you could be doing a lot of damage. You could be learning how to sing off key. There's all kinds of things that I would be responsible for if I gave you a warm-up CD, or if I gave you some kind of a canned thing to do. Okay, that you do this every day before you sing, because your voice is different every day. You're an entirely different person, and you can get to the level where you can understand someone else's CD and how to work through it, but you have to be pretty much a master of your own voice before that'll work. But here's one that's fairly safe as long as you don't do it too hard, and that is by chance. Actually, can you go? Yeah, that's a great one. That's one of the best ones, because see, off mic, no one can hear that when you're on stage.
Yeah.
And I want you to put your hand right here in your voice box, and you go. Do you feel those vibrations in your fingers?
Like a massage.
Yeah, the whole voice box is being massaged. Your vocal cords, your teeth, your hard palate, your muscles. Everything in that area is like you've put one of those electric hand massagers on your hand and put it right there. I wouldn't recommend that, but it's kind of what it feels like. Yeah. And it kind of has that same effect. So what does an athlete do sometimes when they're getting tight? Well, they pull the masseuse in. Say, okay, we've got to take a break. Masseuse comes in, does a little massaging. Okay, they go back to the sport, back to the game. Well, we can do it all by ourselves by some movement into pitch. We don't have to worry about being on key or anything like that. It doesn't have to be musical. So just do this really quickly. Just go. Good. Now extend that range just slightly. Okay, you notice how it cuts out a little bit at the top? Mm-hmm. So we're going to avoid that for a minute and just go. Good. So just do that 5 times. Good. So you're in effect giving yourself a little bit of a massage. I don't know how many it was, but 5 times is an arbitrary figure. Just point is that it takes a few times, a few repetitions. And again, if as you learn to understand your own voice by working with someone like me, giving you feedback, if this was more of a private session, just you and I would probably decide how many of those to do based on what I'm hearing from you, and we might change some exercises. We go through various processes. In principle, the idea is to massage your vocal cords, and there's several different exercises. I think that just happens to be the best one and the safest one, but sometimes it's, I might change it. I might say, this might work better for Ashlee. And if Maat's in here, I said, well, this, I'm going to give this one to Maat, because it's different. So maybe 5 times is the right amount, maybe 10 times is the right amount, maybe 1 time is the right amount. Just depends on the situation. But I kind of noticed that when you try to, you kind of just cuts out, and that means your cords are swollen enough that they can't vibrate fast enough to hit the pitch that you asked them to hit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why massage is so important. And so let's just talk basic principles here for a second, because really, like I said, unless you have a coach right in front of you that has this knowledge, basic principles is all you can really rely on.
Yeah.
And the basic principle here is that if your vocal cords are swollen, and that's what happened from working them hard last night, is that they don't want to vibrate. They're resisting you. And the higher the pitch, the faster your vocal cords have to vibrate. So, they know this now from music, that each pitch has its has a particular amount of vibrations per second. So if you're lower in your speaking voice, you might be vibrating around 220 times a second. For a woman's voice, that's usually pretty comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go up an octave, which is double that, 440, then you might start feeling a little uncomfortable because your vocal cords are saying, I don't want to vibrate that fast because I'm swollen.
Yeah.
And then in the case of, let's say you're an acrobatic singer and you go up to 880, you go to A above that, you go 880 cycles a second. Now you're requiring them to be even looser and more flexible under pressure. So the basic principle here in taking care of your voice is not to build muscle, or not to even think in terms of building muscle, especially at your level, but in terms of thinking, how do I stay really, really loose?
Yeah.
And another one I would send you on for today is, if you know anywhere there's a steam room that you can use for 20 minutes, you go there. And when you go in, breathe through your nose. Because just in case that steam is too hot, you don't want it to hit your vocal cords directly. And, you go into a really hot steam room and you go, ah. You don't want to burn them. That's the opposite of what we're trying to do. So when you go through your nose, it gives a second for that steam to cool down a little bit. Make sure that you're comfortable. Yeah.
Is it the same thing as if I could turn the shower on and sit in the bathroom with it? Or
in principle, yes. In effectiveness, no.
Okay.
Two reasons. A steam room, because your whole body is in there and you're in a hot environment, you're bringing up your blood supply. Your heart rate is going faster. That creates heat, which creates flexibility. Mm-hmm. The other is that the steam in a steam room is much heavier humidity. If you had a meter that showed the humidity, and you went from your shower and said X amount of humidity, and then you went to the steam room, it would show a much higher level of humidity, meaning that you're getting a lot more hot moisture on those cords, so it's much more effective.
Yeah.
But if you can't get to a steam room, it's better than nothing, absolutely.
Okay. That's awesome, because I do that, like breathing in the shower. Yeah. And I know that it does make you feel better, because I like staying warm. I'm not into cold temperatures, so. Yeah,
well, your vocal cords aren't into that either, because again, they're cold is stiff, warm is flexible. And there's a lot of other exercises we won't get into today that actually stretch your cords as well to help them be flexible. So the key here is, okay, I've got hoarseness. How do I get rid of it? Well, it's anything you can learn about that makes them more flexible. Mm-hmm. There's one other thing that everybody can do, again, that's pretty safe and simple, as long as you talk to your doctor or whatever. And the same thing with the steam room. is any kind of aerobic exercise. You can get on a treadmill for 20 minutes. You know, if it's not cold outside, you know, run around the block for a while, whatever. In other words, getting your heart rate up to you know, 110, 120 beats a minute for around 20 minutes creates a lot of internal heat.
Mm-hmm.
And that heat affects your vocal cords and makes them more flexible. Okay, so now what do we do now that we're hoarse and we can't really do anything about it? Now we've got to sing with emotion.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to that part. In principle, like I said earlier, the number one thing is for you to ignore that you're hoarse. Just it doesn't matter. It's you and your audience. It's you and your producer in the recording studio, whichever situation it is. And you have learned through whatever means, with me or whoever else can help you with this kind of thing, you have learned to ignore this hoarseness. So let's take, you know, and I appreciate you volunteering for this. You know.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you know, we're on the air, and this is live, and people can see it, and you know, some singers are like, man, I don't want to be seen like that. So you know, you're stepping up like Steve Tyler does, or Adele did when she lost her voice. She did a lot of publicity on it. You know, it's very, very cool because so many people are going to get so much out of this from you that they should really, really heavily appreciate that you're here and you're doing this for them. Okay, so just take, let's say, the first verse of any song you want, and do you need a key for me to give you, like a chord or a note?
No, I can just sing any song I want?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And what do you normally do to prepare to sing a song? Is there anything you do in your mind?
First I pray, and then I just let go.
Good, good. That letting go part is excellent.
Yeah, I let go. I have like a burst of nerves, and then I just let go.
All right, excellent. So go through that process first. See, this is things that people are learning from. I like that idea.
Okay. Go into singing, okay.
Yeah.
All alone, on my knees I pray for the strength to stay away, in and out and in you go. I feel the fire, and then I lose my self-control. How can I?
Good. Okay, yeah, let's stop at that point. Good, good. Now, tell me, did you notice any mistakes or anything?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we got to work on not doing.
Yeah, maybe because like now I'm in the process of thinking, but I did notice mistakes, and I hear the mistakes.
All right, and so here's what we're going to do. We're going to work on that, and let me state to everybody that this is a pre-production process, not a recording studio or live stage process. In other words, these are things you should not be rehearsing on stage or in the recording studio. So what pre-production generally means is that you are getting ready to emote emotions, that you're doing the functional things that you have to do, like learn the lyrics, learn the melody, learn how to hit the notes, decide how much emotion is going to go in this lyric, what does this word mean, and you know, and we're going to do some of that. So what we're doing here is a form of rehearsal, but this is not what you should be doing in the recording studio. This is not what you should be doing live. You should be completely ignoring some of the things that we're going to talk about today, and just go right into the story. But this is how we get there. So sing the first sentence and then tell me what it's about.
Okay, so it's all alone, on my knees I pray.
Okay, that's not. So what is that about?
She's alone in her room. Because the song is called How Can I Ease the Pain? and she's alone in the room, and she's praying.
Okay, so now this is about somebody else, or it's about you?
She's talking about how the feeling that she has, and how the other person making her feel.
Okay, so is this a character, or is it you?
Oh, it's me. What's me? Since I'm singing, yeah, I'm singing. I'm talking.
Okay, all right.
Sorry, yeah, it's me. Yeah.
All right, good. So I want you to now put all of this in terms of I.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the room. I'm praying. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what the audience wants to hear, actually, in the recording industry mostly, and this is different in theater and it's different in television, and it's totally different in things like American Idol and things like that. Those are all TV shows. So that's all about entertainment. But the art side of this is all about, we want to hear Ashlee's story.
Yeah.
And then we want to relate to it, or not. You know, obviously we want to have a choice. We don't want you to force it down us. So this time, tell me what it feels like to you when you are in that room alone. And okay, you're praying, and what else was there right after that?
She's saying, for the strength to stay away.
Right, okay, for the strength to stay away from someone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're a bad relationship. You're thinking this is a bad relationship. You don't want to go back. Right
Mm-hmm.
on. Okay, so here's the question that doesn't get asked enough, and that is, how does that feel to be in that room, singing those words? What does it feel like to you? Don't explain it to us like it's a story. What does it feel like to Ashlee?
It feels like, to me, it's very relatable. Okay. Because whether it's talking about a relationship with someone else, there's many things that I go through that I feel like I'm alone in, but I can't stay away from it.
All right, you feel that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now this time when you sing it, that's the only thing that's going to be in your mind, is that emotion. Go ahead.
All alone, on my knees I pray.
Excellent. How's that different than the other performance?
I actually didn't think about the vocal. I was thinking about the situation that I just told you.
Good, good. So if I asked you if you made a mistake, you'd say, I don't know. Is that correct?
Yeah, because I wasn't, yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I seriously wasn't even thinking about it.
Excellent. So you did exactly what the audience wants you to do, whether it be live or in the recording studio. And I can tell you, as a listener, I was much more interested in what you said. You can, we'll let people ask questions in a little while, and then also, you can ask people who watch this, what they felt when they heard you sing it that way compared to the other ways. Yeah. In other words, because singers, one of the things that make us appear, or actually do make us insecure, is that we really truly don't know what people think of us, and we can't ever really know that. So one of the reasons we want to focus strictly on the story is to just get out of that whole mindset of, what do people think of me? Because that distracts you from the story. But at the same time, it's very good for you to know that people felt that. And one of the ways that I'll explain to you guys that's a little bit on the technical side about why we felt it is because when you felt it, your body language changed, your dynamics changed, your inflections changed, and so we felt what you felt because all of those things came into place. When you were thinking about your voice, we couldn't feel any of those things because they didn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can actually hear the difference. Like, I'm just I can actually feel the difference.
Yeah. There's going to be a time, if you master this, actually, there's going to be a time when you're going to walk off stage and you're going to, if somebody said to you, did you hear that flat note you sang? You'd say, what flat note? I don't know what you're talking about. But if they said, wow, man, I was so into into that part where you talked about how lonely you were and everything, you go, yeah, I remember that. Man, I was there. Yeah. Thank you for letting me know that, you know, you felt it too. So it's a whole epiphany, if you want to say, that singing is really not about pitch, hoarseness, clean, golden tones, high notes, you know, blah, 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 that we all tend to focus too much on. It's really about what am I feeling when I sing, and that's, from the audience perspective, that's the only thing they're going to pay you for. They're not going to pay you because you hit a high note. They don't care. You know, if it's a bunch of other singers who are impressed with you, then they might. Oh my gosh, did you actually do that? Oh, we're so impressed with her. You know, we wish we could do that. Well, then maybe we'll come pay to see you. But the average audience, they only care about the high note if there's a lot of intense emotion in it. In other words, if there's an emotional reason that there's a high note there, then they care. So let's go on to the next line. So in other words, this is a process of going, and obviously we won't get through the whole song, but this is a process of going from the first line to the very last line of the song, really looking at what it means to Ashlee and how she feels about it. And then in the long run, this whole story has a life where it's born, and I'm not going to say dies because it doesn't, but it ends, you know, and then you go on to another story. So sing the first line and then let it flow into the second line and stay in the context of the emotion only. Focus on that only and just sing the next, you know, those two lines in a row.
Okay. All alone, on my knees I pray for the strength to stay away, in and out and in you go. Okay, I understand.
Okay, right. So you let that bother you.
Yeah.
Right. And I noticed that it bothered you on the first one. But here's a cool thing that you didn't notice. Had you not stopped there, we would have thought of that as an emotional color. That break. Let me tell you why. Sing that line again.
In and out and in you go.
Right. So out and in you go is very personal to you, very emotional. You could almost be on the edge of tears. Is that correct? So if you're really feeling that deeply emotional, it's very possible that your voice could cut out. Not because you couldn't sing it, but because the emotion cut it out. So this is a funny thing that happens in the studios. You know, you guys are singing along, and you know, we're in the studio going, "Oh man, I'm really into this with this girl, and everything's feeling like this and this," and then all of a sudden she stops. And you go, "What? What happened? You know, everything was great." And then the singer said, "Well, didn't you hear that?" And they say, "No, I didn't hear that. I felt all this emotion." And so the key to making sure that you don't make that mistake is to never stop singing unless they ask you to.
Okay.
Just like, you know, in a live performance, you never stop at all, period. But in a recording session where you're trying to create a live situation, in other words, a situation where you're in a studio with no people in there, but yet you're singing as if there was, you ignore those things and keep going and let them decide what is going to be kept and what isn't.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a great example of a very famous song that what you just did happened in. And I had to think this through myself because it was Joe Cocker. You know, no argument, is one of the best emotional artists out there. And he's singing "You Are So Beautiful." And the whole thing, of course, is you know, with him, is very, you are so beautiful. You know, with him, it's not about, you know, again, belting out in this particular song, or, you know, showing off his voice or anything like that. He's just not even there. But at the end, he goes, his voice cut out. My first thought, because I was into technique more than I am at the time, was, oh man, his voice is shot. But what I found out is that everybody else is going, oh man, he just totally broke down. She's just so beautiful to him that he's just totally melted, just totally, you know. So that's why they kept it. It was a great track because of the way it felt, not because of the way it so-called sounded.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to stay away from thinking about what things sound like to you, and just let your emotions go. So do it again now, with that in mind, and just ignore it and just let the emotion and the story stay in your conscious mind. Okay. It's a skill, girl. It takes practice like everything else, you know. So don't expect miracles, but you can learn to do this. Go ahead.
Okay. All alone, on my knees I pray for the strength to stay away, in and out and in you go. I feel the fire, then I lose my self-control.
Excellent.
It felt better. It feels like a live performance.
Yes. Yes. You feel like you're connecting, even though you're all by yourself. Now, you know, in other words, you don't have, you know, I mean, this is very much like a studio situation. You got you and your producer, and you know, that's it. And on that note about you and your producer, I always suggest that you have a producer, that you never try to be your own producer. Yeah. And part of the reason is because the producer is a great producer, is doing what is your audience. He's your feedback. He or she is your support. Sometimes you don't want to necessarily say they're your cheerleader, because maybe they shouldn't be. Sometimes, you know, maybe they should say, oh man, Angela, I don't know, that just wasn't happening for me. You know, in other words, they got to stay kind of objective. But the most successful producers are the ones who seem to have a sense of all the choices that they make about your voice is what the audience wants to hear. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, the record doesn't sell. And I can tell you personally, I've done a lot of self-recording, and I've heard a lot of other people try to do self-recording, and it just doesn't work emotionally. It works technically because we're in a pretty good situation to listen back and say, oh, that note was flat, or that was sharp, or, you know, I forgot the word, or, you know, so for rehearsal it's okay, but when you're actually tracking something to release it to an audience, then you need that someone in there who's giving you audience-style feedback. And it's not their job to fix these problems, you know, like if they say to you, well, you know, for some reason, Angela, I just didn't feel that one line. It's not necessarily their job to help you figure out how to make it happen. That's yours. But it is their job to let you know that there was no feeling there. And it's also their job to say, wow, did you see the tears in my eyes? That was you. You did that. You know. Or did you see me get up and dance? You know, that's you.
Yeah.
That's the way you made me feel. Okay, so let's let Ashlee be the first one to ask questions.
I have, well, you're actually answering them while you're talking, because I am I have a bad habit of stopping myself. Mm-hmm. And I'm very technically hard on myself, to where my biggest factor is getting rest and taking proper care, because, you know, after shows, sometimes you don't have time to do a come down. The only time you do have to rest is when you go back to your residence or when you do have time or in the car on the way back. But my question is, how, I understand there's things to do, but what if there's something to do back to back? It's like if you have shows back to back and then there's recording, and then I know with interviews and stuff, yeah, there's talking involved. What can you do? Well, what can I do or anyone else can do to prevent the voice from getting worse? Is there any kind of other procedures or resting or kind of calm downs or warm ups to keep the voice in a neutral state?
Yeah, to some degree, but there's no neutrality because otherwise there'd be no emotion in your singing. In other words, a voice that's in constantly the same state isn't really doing anything. In other words, you're not giving anything. You know, it's kind of like an athlete saying, you know, how do I run the 50-yard dash without really, you know, doing anything? Yeah, running. Yeah, without pushing my legs as fast as I can make them go. You know. So obviously, there's going to be. I know what you want. I know what you're saying, though. You always want to be in good voice. Yeah. But because of this athletic environment we've gotten ourselves into, we do have to realize that that's a flux. That's something that's always in flux. So warm-up is critical to the answer that you just asked me. And warm-ups that are given to you by someone who knows how to warm up your voice is the only way to do it. I don't recommend a warm-up app or a warm-up CD or a warm-up video because they're not for you. They wasn't designed for Ashlee. And the other thing is even if it was, and let's say it was 8 months old, it doesn't know, that recording doesn't know what shape you're in at that moment. And so part of the learning process of having a coach is to learn how to is to understand the principle of how to warm up so that you actually eventually can do it yourself. Yeah. So that you're making up your own warm-ups. And you're deciding how your voice is reacting to each different warm-up and how long you need to keep doing it. And generally, warm-up should not be any, and believe me, let me say this quickly, this is not a warm-up. Oh, that's a vocal exercise. That's for strengthening. That's not a warm-up. A warm-up would be something more like, ooh, something that's going to massage your vocal cords, or a lot of us have seen this. Those are things that are actually warm-up exercises. Some people think that vocal exercises are warm-ups. They're not. Where was I? So anyway, so warm-up is the most critical thing. So if you can warm up before the show, fantastic. If you warm up before the interview, fantastic. You know, so let's say you said back to back. So you got a show you've just finished up, and then you're saying you have another show, or you have an interview, or either.
It's sometimes there's 4 events in one day that I do, and then you have to do talking in between sometimes, and then probably get like a 10-minute, 15-minute break depending on location or the setup, and then after that sometimes you have recording, and then those are the things come into play.
Okay, cool. All right, so the same exercises that are used for voice therapy, voice warm-up, also used for voice cool-down. So at the end of the show, you take 5-10 minutes and do a few of these massaging exercises to again, you know, to get them loose. Vocal exercises kind of like do this, the warm-up ones. They loosen your hand. They don't tighten it. That's for exercise. If you don't tighten it, you know, that's for strengthening. That's for opera and all that. But if you just want to get this going, stuff like that is terrific. And then, so let's say you have an hour in between the shows. So you do like 5-10 minutes cool down right after the show. Then you do 5 or 10 minutes warm up before the show, because you're already pretty warmed up. Obviously, you know, you started the show, you've done your cool down. So you know, again, you do just a little bit more to allow you to be flexible again for that next interview or show. It really doesn't matter whether it's an interview or show. You know, this is the same issue is there. Is there's that stressor. Something, you know, you're going to use your vocal cords for something, and the idea is to get them as flexible as possible before you start power singing again. And on your interviews, and this can take a little bit of outside work, is sometimes we go and interview, we talk like this, like, you know, I'm so tired, you know, I just that's actually kind of hard on the vocal cords because they're rubbing each other.
Yeah.
The vocal cords are rubbing each other. You don't want them. So you want to raise your speech level up a little bit. Yeah, hey, how you doing? Yeah, we had a great show. You know, they say, how do you you pet your dog every day? Oh yeah, it was great. You know, love my dog. Do you pray every morning? Oh, to God, to God, to God. You know, in other words, keep that speech level up a little bit higher. Don't let it get like that.
If you come back down, it's kind of like doing a reverse. You talk at like really low.
Okay, say that again.
So basically, like I was saying, like if you just had a show and then you come into an interview and you talk low, that's not the best suggestion to do. It's best to talk at a higher.
Yes.
Raise it.
Yeah. You know, don't get in and yell and scream and waste a lot of energy. I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
You know, but just don't go in there and say, yeah, I had a great show. You know, I'm trying to rest my voice. And you never whisper. That's also another no-no that speech therapists have known for years and years and years, because that creates a drying out of your vocal cords, which then creates friction, which then burns them. And also, you want to do this cool down before you go to sleep at night, because you notice when you wake up the first thing in the morning, you know, and I know you're here on the coast, so this is morning for you. Your cords are the stiffest at this time, basically, of the day, and so if you cool down, just like the athletes stretch after a workout, or they take a walk after a workout, they cool down. What it does is it helps so that when they get up in the morning, they're not so stiff. And then also, obviously, if you can, you know, get you know, some of that aerobic exercise in, you know, steam rooms, you know, and any of the things we've talked about so far. Okay, let's open it up for questions, Mahat.
All right, you guys.
Thanks again. That was awesome.
Thank you.
No, that was really informative.
So you're telling me Brad didn't fail you?
Did I get failed?
No. I'm not sure what the question was. Go ask
I know that could have went either way. Either you failed her, gave her an F, or you didn't do a good job.
No.
Oh no! I think we all got an A. I feel good. She listened, and she was very responsive, and she was able to make things happen very quickly. You know, not everybody can get to their emotions as quickly as you did, Ashlee. For some singers, that's like almost more difficult than technique.
Yeah.
You know, to connect with the lyrics, and so you didn't give me much of a challenge in that respect, and so people didn't get to learn some things I would have done had you been more of a challenge. But point is that I think it was great that they got to see how quickly it can happen.
Okay, so we need to get you somebody who's a real challenge. I will find.
If you want, you know, like we say, we're going to do this bi-weekly just for that reason, you know, so that each session can have a little different value to it. And I wanted to say, during earlier hangouts and you know, conversations I have with people on PENSADIA group and so forth, a lot of questions that get asked of me is, well, how do you do this? And, you know, how do you handle this? And how do you handle this? Well, the thing is that this is a lot about my life and all the principles that I use to help somebody get somewhere. And so there isn't really a stock answer, but there is principles. And we can pass those on to all you guys this way, and that's why I feel comfortable doing this. I'm not trying to teach you guys how to sing on your own. I don't. That just doesn't work. In fact, going back to CDs, some of the most pitch problem singers that I work with have worked with those CDs for a while before they came to see me. I find I have to do a lot of pitch corrections for them, and it's very difficult because they've been doing the CD thinking they're on pitch, and so they put in these what would I say, these habits very confidently, and so they're harder to deal with. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Leslie made it. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Okay. For anybody who doesn't know, like Leslie, when you came in just now, I just muted you. You take your cursor up to the top of the screen, and you'll see some icons. One of them is for a mic. If your mic is muted, when it's time to talk, you just click on that and unmute yourself. There's also a video camera so that if you need to hide your video. Okay. Who has the first question? Who wants to ask a question? Whoever unmutes first. Here we go, Andrew.
Hiya.
Hey, buddy.
Hi, Brad. How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
And you, mate. The question I've got, because I'm not a vocalist, by the way, so please don't ask me to sing.
Oh, no. This is for producers, too.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things I was going to ask, something that I've experienced in the past, is working with vocalists who have maybe been gigging the song for quite a while, so they've worn out the emotion of the song, but also when they've written the song, when you go through as a producer and read the lyrics, and then they go in the booth and start singing it, you're not getting what's written, if you know what I mean. It's something that's written. You can tell that they were really emotional about what they wrote, but maybe not, because if they've been gigging it for maybe 6 months or a year before getting into the studio, then what would be your advice to kind of get them to jump back to that emotion, or get them to get back into that zone before they record it?
Okay, so the good thing about that is that they've really grooved it. Whatever they've been doing, it's really grooved. It's very second nature to them. And one of the things that of course I don't know is that when they did this 6 months, were they ever doing the emotions? And sometimes that's something you don't know either. And so you have to ask the question. I'm really not feeling. And I know great producers, all the ones that I've worked with or I've seen them work, they're always going, I want feel, give me the feel, and sometimes, of course, the singer has no clue about what to do about that. So here's what you do. You first find out, say, like what I did with Ashlee is, like, what does this line mean, man? And then let them explain it. So that they start connecting with the story, because they, like you said, they've lost connection, whether it be because of repetition or whether it be because they never had it. You don't really know. And then the next thing to do, and I know I've had a producer say, "What? Are you like a psychologist?" I said, "No. I'm not. Psychologists ask you these questions in order to bring up old memories so you can deal with problems. That's not what we're doing here. We're connecting our emotions to the lyrics so that we feel something, which is a whole reason for singing, and that the whole reason for buying a record is so that the audience can feel something." And so the first thing you do is you do exactly what I did with Ashlee. Basically, you get them to connect with the lyric, and really this should be done before the recording session. That's, if you can't find somebody like me, or they can't afford, and actually I try to make myself affordable to artists because I believe in them. And so part of my process is to hear, if they want to work with me, I listen to their demo and so forth, and then I ask them to say, okay, I'll work with you because I really like what you're doing, I really like all this, and you pay me what you can. And but anyway, first point is I'm only one person, so sometimes you're going to have to say, this is the wrong time to record this. We need to go back and do some rehearsal for a while where I'm actually coaching you as a producer. It just depends on the situation. If you can get the emotion out of them quickly, if they're responsive like Ashlee was, then you probably can get it all done. But if you have to go into rehearsal mode in the recording session, you're done. You're not going to get any emotion out of them.
Brad, you talked about muscle memory one time. I don't remember when it was, but like when they're out, like what he's talking about, when they're out singing night, just night after night, and they get into that habit where it's actually muscle memory, yeah, even if we get them to understand the emotion, that muscle memory thing is something we end up having to get over, and it's like, well, now I'm trying to get singers to sing it from beginning to end, and so that's just a task. So yeah, I would have to end the session, and we go into training to fix this muscle memory, so that they could come in and we could actually record a performance. Wait, first, Spence, did he answer your question good enough before we? Andrew, did he answer your question good enough?
Yeah, I've just got an expansion on it, but I'll wait until you finish because it's just something that can kind of jump in at any time. So you go on. It's cool, man.
By the way, she's loving your accent. She asked if you were from Australia.
If I was from Australia, I'd go higher at the end of every sentence, I think.
Just a little bit.
That's one of the things about these hangouts is there's people from around the world, because you're from England, right? My memory says England.
Yeah, near Manchester. Not too far from Manchester.
Yeah.
Cool.
And there's no telling, like Mitchell. Where are you from, Mitchell?
Netherlands.
Netherlands. And how do you say your name again?
Mitchell.
It is Mitchell. I was tempted to say Michelle. But back to what I was saying. The whole muscle memory thing. I've had issue where I would work with a singer, and even after I get them to understand the emotion and do it, they turn right around, and as soon as they go to open their mouth, they go right back to that thing. And I think Brad, you were like the third person to tell me, yeah, now in the studio, so when it's time to record, is not the time to be going through that crap. But go ahead, Brad, respond to that or whatever if you want, and then.
Well, yeah, real quickly, like I said to is it Andrew? I said the fact that they have great muscle memory and the song is actually an advantage. You know, the fact they know the lyrics so well, and the fact they know the melody so well, and the fact that and hopefully they've been. In fact, this is really important for all singers in the recording studio. Hopefully, they've had a lot of success with emotional connection with their audience, so that you can say to them, you know, hey man, I'm your audience now, so connect with me. You know, or if that doesn't feel comfortable to them, then you can say, look, use your memory and remember that, you know, your shows and how people react to you, and sing it exactly the same way as if they were there. In other words, because that's the biggest part about recording that's hard for almost everybody, is that there's no audience, and so there's no direct, immediate response between you, while you're singing in the studio. And so you have to, just like we did with Angela, and, you know, I noticed she closed her eyes, which I'm 100% for, especially the type of music she was singing. She could really go inside and feel those emotions and not really worry about it, whether there was anybody there to react to them or not. But on Ott's question about the muscle memory, yeah, it has to be changed. You know, I mean, that's basically what I do for a living, and that's an interesting thing. See, I love what producers hate. I love to make those changes. Producers don't want to make changes. They just want to hear. They just want to hear a great performance. Ott was talking to an engineer in a hangout I was listening to, and he was just saying, well, you know, if they're not great singers, then I just don't work with them. And, you know, Ott's, well, that's cool for you, but, you know, I got all these singers I got to work with, and you know, I'm in Fresno, and, you know, maybe Chaka Khan isn't walking in the door today, and, you know, so what do I do? And so these are the answers to those questions. And what do you do with a great singer, too, is the same thing, really. You want to get more out of them. If you want them to keep you as a producer, you get more out of them than anyone's ever gotten out of them, and you're the man. I mean, you are the man.
You know what's crazy, Brad? With the real good singers, the whole ego thing, what I've experienced is I'll work on this emotion thing with them, and then they won't like what they're hearing, but the listeners who listen will pick that song. And so they have, like, the singer will have this excellent singer will have their songs that they like, and the audience is not connecting with them. And then here's the song that they hate what they had to go through with me to get this performance. They hate the performance because it's not what they wanted, and then they're looking at the response to people as they listen to the CD, and it's like it just keeps hitting them over the head, and you know, they'll come back and be like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and help you out, my aunt, and let you, you know, work with me again. But that whole disconnect right there, and I've seen, like, you'll see it, like Chicago or somebody like that. They'll get tired of singing their songs, and it's their hits. There's just this disconnect between us and the audience. Even when we're mixing, we'll get off into some technical whatever, and not even be paying attention to what we're making the audience feel when we're mixing. But Spence, we haven't forgot about you, bro. Because as soon as Brad says whatever, just jump on in. Go ahead.
Well,
Brad.
actually, sorry guys, the reason I said this is an hour long is because I've got a client I've got to take care of now.
Aww.
So I'll tell you what, we'll keep in mind exactly where we were in 2 weeks and start right there.
All right.
So
hey family, we're not going to end it. Brad's going to leave. We're going to stay and talk a little bit.
Hey, that's great.
No, Brad's going to desert us because, you know, he has a client, you know.
He's a deserter. I know. Cheap sucker.
Brad, much appreciated, bro. Everybody, wait. We've never heard from Leslie. Leslie, speak up real quick before Brad leaves, please.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. I've worked with Brad for a number of years, and I was just quickly reflecting over when he brings me technically to a new place, I have to retrain all the muscle memory because, oh, I can hit that note now with much grace and ease, and my mind still wants to fight it and do it the old way. So I love that kind of personal evolution with the vocal, and it's an ever-evolving thing, and I love it. I love the growth, the continued growth.
All right, and real quick, there's Arpit. Say hello to Brad real quick, because he's got to go.
Yeah. Brad, thank you for being available. I really appreciate it. I'm sure we'll touch base in a few more weeks.
Great. Yeah, that's why I love this idea of, doing, and maybe, maybe we'll start doing it every week. We'll just see how it goes. I don't want to, drown you guys in too much information, but for now, let's do, every other week and see how it goes.
Also, would you be able to share your information where if you want to do one-on-one coaching over the internet or something, how we can get in touch with you?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Into the message box, Brad. Would you type it into the message box?
Yeah. I'll just type. We'll just do the phone number thing because then you can text me or whatever.
And then John, make sure you unmute and say hello too.
Hello.
Hey, John. John and I work together, so.
We're working with you tomorrow.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I'm so glad you made it.
Oh, okay. Okay, I shared the link to them. They showed interest. I shared the link with them, and I had no clue. I said,
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Right on, man. Well, I love my people, so when they're here, that's great. I appreciate it. Appreciate the support, you all. Okay, I really got to go. So,
okay,
see you in 2 weeks, man.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, peace out, Brad. Catch you later. All right, you guys. William, what were you going to ask? And we'll get him next time when he comes on. We'll get him with it. But what were you going to ask, Andrew?
Oh, I was going to ask how much of a difference it was dealing with British people because a lot of them aren't as outgoing as you guys from the States. They're a bit more reserved and they're a bit less. What's the word? A bit less enthusiastic to let go, if you know what I mean. Especially when I'm dealing with the guys who are like, you have to excuse us, my son's just eating some sweets. And I'm having some as well. If it's like an indie band or a rock band, it's a different vibe, and also the content lyrically can be different. There's a lot more kind of angry stuff rather than the emotional hurt and feel and love stuff. So I'll get him to answer it next time. I mean, I know before I do a similar thing with guys where it's like you need to go in there and act it out, but maybe getting those guys to act something out is hard, you know what I mean? Because they're trying to be cool. They just want to be cool. We don't want to act. We want to be reserved and not do anything, so it's quite tough. But
okay, you know you're killing what the Beatles did, right? You're just destroying the whole thing of what the Beatles did, right?
No, but they were all right, weren't they? But even then, I mean, John Lennon hated his vocal, so I'm sure he was a nightmare in the studio to work with. When Ken Scott was on Pensada's place, actually, I sent a question in and it got read out, and he said that John didn't really like his vocal at all at any time in the studio, but he said like Paul McCartney was the one who was kind of the easiest to work with as an all-rounder.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll ask Brad next time, because I was just wondering with how many of the UK people he's worked with, and if there is a different approach, you know, depending on where people are from, you know, different cultures and things like that. I was wondering if he adjusts or if there's a way to adjust. Say hi.
What's
John.
your son's name?
This is Mason.
Mason, she's waving at you.
Mason plays the drums. He's pretty good, aren't he?
Did anybody else have anything? Leslie, Arpit, did John leave? Yeah, looks like he disappeared. Oh, go ahead.
Hi, Leslie.
Hello.
I'm Ashlee. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I really enjoyed what I heard. I really enjoyed hearing you feel the music, and this is still a new thing for me. With regard to the Brit, this may have nothing to do with what he's asking, but there have been times in certain lines of cover songs I've done where Brad has told me I need to be more Brit with the way I shape the vowels so that I can do them more successfully.
Yeah.
So it may have nothing to do with what he's asking, but that just reminded me that we take a little bit from the classical, a little bit from the Brit, as needed for a particular voice. And it's the thing I love about Brad is he just hones right in on exactly what I need, and he may tell the next student something. I shouldn't say student, the next person he works with, something completely different. So he's just really genius that way, and I've really enjoyed metamorphosis. I am doing things vocally that I never would have even comprehended now when I started lessons with him. So it's like I'm so excited because I'm living my dream. I'm not a big famous singer, but I'm living my dream within me, and that's where it starts.
Okay, what did he mean by Brit? What was it? Pronunciation?
Yes, to sing it like the British would speak it was what he was telling me. I can't remember what song I was working on. I don't know if it was Alanis Morissette, one of those that had some upper range things that I just was struggling to be comfortable in, and he was able to get me there. I regret that I can't remember what song, but I just remember that there are times I pull in the Brit thing in the way I shape it.
So he personalizes the lesson.
Working with me. Yeah, he really does. I've been working with him for like 8 years, and I've gone through so much metamorphosis. It's like, okay, I want to work on this now. I want to work on this, and we haven't topped anything out. There's always a new level, and wherever I'm growing, he's growing too, with working with me, and he has a new level of awareness that I'm like, wow, where did that come from? And that's amazing. And he himself says that what he does is kind of an intuitive type of thing where he can just pull out what the student or the person he's working with needs. And I just finished a vocal track this week. I'm working on my 8th album. And I am pleased with it. I am pleased with what came of it. And he listened to it, and he was like, he said, yeah, you made it. You're there with that for the most part. And he's always said, you know, you can do it. But he said, yeah, and I know that. I know what it means. I know what it feels like. And it's that little sweet spot that's so easy to cross the line or to pull back too much. And when I find that, I can even tell from line to line if I have to re-sing a line. Okay, the energy dropped here. I've got to pull it up. Oh, it went over the top. Got to just keep it right in line. And I didn't comprehend any of this stuff like 3 years ago. So, and you're already getting in touch with that. I think that's wonderful.
All right. Anybody else? Because we got to close it down here pretty soon, Mitchell. You got anything?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question, but it's too late now.
Okay, I can't hear you, bro. You got to get closer to the mic or turn something up.
I wanted to ask a question to the guy himself, but I wanted to ask a question to the guy himself, but he's already gone, so it's no use right now.
Okay, hey Mitchell, how about this next session? Before we even get started, I'll bring you in so you can ask him. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, bro. All right, we're gonna close this out. Thank you everybody for joining us, and like I said, we'll try to get these questions in a little early next time. I'll invite you guys. I believe, yeah, I've already friended you, Leslie. I've already added you to my circle. And I'll try to get you guys in. We can hit him with some questions, and then as a warm-up, that could be his warm-up. And then he'll get started on a singer. All right? All right, fam. Y'all have a nice day.